Okay, let's dive right into this. Welcome to today's Explainer, where we are embarking on a virtual walking tour through one of the most fascinating, historically rich locations you could ever hope to explore. We're heading straight into the heart of history, specifically the ancient, aristocratic neighborhood of Fahadan in the city of Yazd. If you love uncovering the hidden layers of time, digging into unique architecture, and discovering mysteries hidden in plain sight, well, you are in for an absolute treat today.
Wait, a cheetah sanctuary in the middle of a desert town? It sounds completely contradictory, right? I mean, when we think of ancient desert cities, we typically picture sand dunes, ancient trade routes, and mud brick architecture. But this specific ancient desert neighborhood has a wild, surprising, and very literal origin story that goes way beyond your typical urban history. You see, before it evolved into a bustling center for the elite, it was something entirely different, and honestly, significantly more dangerous.
So, here is our itinerary for today. First, we'll check out the walled cheetah forest. Second, we're heading inside the Lari House. Third, we'll look at the Alexander prison myth. And fourth, coins, culture, and everyday life. Let's get moving. Section 1. The Walled Cheetah Forest. The Wild Origins of Fahadan. To the older locals in the area, this neighborhood goes by Jungle, which literally means forest, or Yuzadarn, which translates directly to cheetah keepers. It turns out the city's ruler back in the day, a guy named Quap al-Din, had a massive, almost obsessive fascination with cheetahs. And he didn't just want a few pets. He created expansive, sprawling gardens right here in this district specifically to keep and breed these incredible big cats. He literally walled off the entire Fahadan neighborhood just to separate his cheetah sanctuary from the rest of the bustling city. Crazy, right? And this brilliantly illustrates exactly how this isolation worked over time. For hundreds of years, the neighborhood essentially only had two access points. The first entry gate was constructed way back in the 5th century, and a second gate was added much later in the 8th century. By the time the Seljuk era rolled around, the neighborhood was firmly established as an authentic, aristocratic center. But just think about those early centuries for a second. Both humans and cheetahs had to share these highly restricted, heavily guarded entry and exit points. What's truly amazing is how accessible all this wild history is for today's traveler. Local modern accommodations, like the famous Hotel Yazd, put you right at the edge of this ancient history. Staying at places like this means you can practically step right out of your modern room and onto these ancient pages of history whenever you want, walking the exact same ground where cheetahs once roamed behind massive, formidable walls. Section 2. Inside the Lari House. The aristocratic grandeur. Transitioning from the wild outdoors to stunning residential wealth, the magic number here is 1,200. That's 1,200 square meters, which is the immense footprint this historical property spans. Highlighting that number really puts the sheer aristocratic grandeur of Fahadan's elite residence into perspective. In a dense, ancient desert city where space was at an absolute premium, possessing a 1,200 square meter home meant you were firmly seated at the very top of the social and economic hierarchy. And here is another defining number for you, 6. Within this vast, sprawling 1,200 square meter space, there were 6 primary, highly detailed main rooms. This historic estate belonged to Mohammed Ebrahim Lari, and these rooms were meticulously designed to showcase his immense wealth. They provided a luxurious space to live and to host the city's most important figures. As historical overviews have noted, with its eye-catching architecture, it is impossible to skip walking through the Lari House. And honestly, they hit the nail on the head. The intricate designs and structural elegance make this house an absolute must-see highlight on our virtual tour. It perfectly encapsulates how the neighborhood evolved from a walled-off cheetah garden into a deeply established, highly affluent historical district. Section 3. The Alexander prison myth. Debunking local legends. Now, what's really interesting as we step up to the famous Ziaei School is the stark contrast we find. On one side, you have an enduring local myth that this foreboding structure was a legendary dungeon, a prison built by none other than Alexander the Great himself. No way, right? Well, on the other side is the historical reality. It is actually a Mongol-era memorial and tomb. But for generations, locals genuinely believed in the Alexander connection, which gave the building this incredibly dark, mysterious, and heavy aura. The historical truth, though, is equally compelling. The structure was actually constructed by a man named Ziaei Hossein Razi and his sons during the incredibly turbulent era of the Mongol invasion. It started out simply as a peaceful memorial and tomb. But over the centuries, as generations passed and memories kind of blurred, the building evolved into its current form, picking up the mythical Alexander's prison nickname along the way. It's just a perfect example of how local folklore can completely rewrite a building's identity over time. Section 4. Coins, Culture, and Everyday Life. The Haydarzadeh Experience. Shifting our focus away from grand aristocratic architecture and ancient myths, let's look at the everyday people of Yazd. We arrive at the Haydarzadeh Coin and Anthropology Museum, and what's wonderful here is that this museum doesn't sit in some modern, sterile building. No, it is beautifully housed in the historic Arab Ziaei House, which is yet another one of Fahadan's magnificent historical residential structures. The museum itself was founded by a renowned numismatics veteran, Hossein Haydarzadeh, who dedicated his entire life to preserving the economic and cultural footprint of the region. Inside, the museum features an incredible array of history. We're talking coins dating all the way back to the pre-Islamic era, running right up through contemporary times. But it's so much more than just a coin collection. It also houses brilliant local folk art and countless everyday Yazdi life objects. It's like a giant puzzle of history meticulously preserved in one space, waiting to tell the story of the people. To quote the source text directly, the museum adds interesting experiences and knowledge about the everyday lives of the people of Yazd. These artifacts, the tools they used, the art they made, the coins they traded with, they offer a direct, tactile, sensory window into the local culture. It beautifully connects the grand history of cheetahs and aristocrats down to the daily reality of the merchants and craftsmen who actually built the local economy. And here is the main takeaway to remember as we wrap up our visual journey. These historic sites we've explored today are really just a fraction of what makes the ancient Fahadan neighborhood so incredibly important. This explainer only scratches the surface of the authentic history embedded in literally every wall and narrow alleyway of this district. So I want to leave you with this final thought and question to ponder. Which page of Fahadan's history would you want to step into first? Would you brave the 5th century gates of the walled cheetah forest? Would you lounge in the sprawling 1,200 square meter Lari House? Or would you try to uncover the truth inside Alexander's mythical prison? Whatever it is, the ancient alleyways of Yazd are out there just waiting for you to pack your bags and explore them for yourself. Thanks for joining me on this walk through history, and keep that curiosity alive.